Two.
Welcome to the True That Show, and today's a special edition because you know what? Miss Caroline is going to tell us what made her say yes. Now, I know that is an open-ended question. What made her say yes to many different things, but we're going to nail this down, and I'm going to ask Caroline to just spill all true that on what made her say yes to doing a podcast show that was called the True That. It's a pretty risky title, right? It's pretty risky. It's pretty out there. So, Caroline, I got to ask you, what made you say yes?
Well, you were pleasantly persistent. No, I have to say that I feel blessed to be doing that show, but it was not my idea. So I've always wanted to somewhere in my life to comment publicly on some things, because I feel like I have so much to say when I see everyday situations or posts or whatever. I feel like I want to share, but I always kept that to myself. I've always been quoted as a sarcastic person, but it's not really that. I don't think it's sarcasm. I think it's just because I'm brutally honest, and people see that as sarcasm, but it's basically honesty. But it's funny because my second husband told me in the beginning when we met, you should be on a radio show because you have an answer for everything. And it stayed there. Obviously, I didn't feel like I was anybody. I was just like, why would people want to listen to me? Why would I be on a show? Like, what do I have to say? What I'm thinking, everyone's thinking. But no, it's not like that. And then when I met Deb, it was a very, amazing thing to meet her, because it was at a place in my life where there was a lot of changes and everything. And she started pushing me. And honestly, believing in myself more than I actually believed in myself. And she was just like, girl, one day we'll do a conference together. Girl, we'll be on stage together one day. And I was just like, she's on crack. Like, second language. I don't know what I would do on stage with this woman. And anyway, long story short, not too long ago, she's like, hey, why don't we do a podcast? And I was just in a day that I didn't want to say no because I was tired of it. I'm like, okay. And then she started sending texts, let's do this, let's do that, let's do that. And I was just like, wow, I'm in it. But what made me say yes? It's probably Deb's belief, persistence, and vision, and I'm truly grateful, Deb, even if I always consistently bug you. You made something happen that I wasn't letting myself see for myself. So thank you.
Oh,
what made you?
That's Caroline's way of putting the whole responsibility of the show. If it doesn't work, X on Deb's side, check mark on Caroline's side, right? Next, and it's this way of getting her to make me listen to her more the next time. She'll be like, she'll always be able to say, do you remember that podcast idea? I'll be like, okay, you win.
Oh no, because then tomorrow, well, first of all, I would tell you, I told you so, but yeah. After that, I would say, no, I'm grateful because it's been an amazing experience, and it is an amazing experience to be part of it. But now it's my turn to ask you, Deb, what made you harass me? No, Deb, what made you say yes?
You know what? It's interesting because as you talk and I think about, it takes me back to that time where we first met and kind of the interactions. And, everyone, if you don't know, we met together on a marketing tour in Australia. We were both out of our elements. We both were intimidated by life. We both had never ventured away from our kids to that degree. I mean, I'm in Vancouver, Canada. Caroline's in Montreal, Canada. That was the furthest I had been away from my children. I've traveled for work before, but I always thought I could get on a plane and just go back home. That's a whole different ballgame when you're in Australia. So for me, there was like homesickness, and I was on uncharted territory and opening up a market. I had never been there before. And we all had our nuances, right? And I think what really drew me to doing a podcast per se was very different than doing a podcast with you, because as much as Caroline says that, you know, I saw something in her, it was also very reciprocal where she saw something in me. And we both, I think, knew we had it inside each other, but it's always nice when someone else lights the flashlight on it and allows us to kind of bring it up, because people can't see it unless it's there, right? Like, you can't make that stuff up about other people because we have other things to do. We're self-centered, right? We all think about what we're doing in our life. We're not like, ooh, I wonder if there's something there and I'm going to, you know, so it doesn't work that way. So as Caroline was reflecting back to her and I was reflecting back to me, and the one thing that I loved about our interactions was this kind of, for me, I'll just talk about myself, was I saw a podcast as a way to kind of be a part of the movement of me getting braver. Right. So again, I mean, I don't know if it's generational, right? So I really do remember, hearing the words, you know, children should be seen and not heard. Like, I remember that people talk about that. Oh yeah, back in the day. Well, I was the day, you know, I was the day. So I came from that place of in school, when they asked us what we wanted to be, our choices were nurse, stewardess, and what was the other one? Teacher. Like, it was like 3 kind of things that went around for women, right? So what do you want to be? You want to be a stewardess? You want to be, like, I just didn't know. Like, there was no way someone had a conversation about I could be an engineer. There was no way I had a conversation about I could be an entrepreneur. There was no way that there was a conversation that I could be about, I could teach, you know, guitar or something, you know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't like that. And so I think that there's been barriers of different generations that we've broken. And when I think about a podcast, I think about, there's things that I say, and then there's things that I want to say. And the things that I want to say are the things that I'm scared to say, or I'm worried about getting judged, or I don't want to be categorized. Oh, she's one of those kind of people, or she's that kind of woman, or she really advocates that. I didn't want to be boxed. You know, I didn't want to be boxed or seen in a certain sector. I just wanted to be okay being me. And okay being me was kind of funky at times, right? Like, you know, I've been called a hippie before. That title I was cool with, but it wasn't cool at the time, right? Because what it said is, oh, you're a hippie. You know, you don't eat out of a microwave. Like, there was something wrong with me, right? So being a pioneer wasn't so cool. I mean, I remember literally going to family events and like, oh, don't eat the peas, right? Because they came out of a microwave. Like, I was the only one. And you know what? I think I probably was. And so I think I've had that experience of maybe having some kind of ideas and not knowing where or how to share them and who to share them with. And it got confusing. And I think when that happened for me, I think it made me smaller, not bigger. And it made me suss out people I could be myself with. I'm sure people can relate to that, right? You want to be with people that you could be yourself with, right? There's people that you are in different areas, and then there's those people you get to be yourself with. And so with Caroline, you know, it's funny how she talks about how we first met and how she, you know, thought I was this or thought I was that before she met me. And I didn't know much about her. And, but really when we kind of aligned up, it was like someone I could be myself with. And it was a refreshing breath of air because I believe, lived, or I'll talk about me, lived in these boxes of I could be myself here, I couldn't be here. I talk about this person, I'm careful about what I put on social media because I don't want people to think I'm political, or I don't want people to think I'm sexist, or I don't want people to think that I'm favoring this or favoring that or whatever, because it's just so like that out there in the world that when I thought there's a podcast, I thought, you know what, at a certain time in life, you just got to brave up. You know, you got to brave up. I mean, just because you see people on stage, don't think that they don't go through a whole mental process around that. So for me, really what made me say yes is I just thought it was time that I got brave, you know, and put myself out on a platform. And not that I don't care about people, but not really care about what they think, to the point that it makes me not be myself. And so the whole forum of being in a podcast, I think, is being allowed to be sarcastic, or being allowed to have fun, or being allowed to pick our speakers, or being allowed to, because I let myself, you know, I let myself. So I think for me, the podcast, what made me say yes was that it was just time. You know, it was just time that I stepped into myself more. And it's part of my joy. You know, I think for me, you get to the stage in life where, you know, we talk about it in one of the businesses that we have. It's like, you get to choose who you play with in this life. You get to choose who you play with in this life. And if there's one thing that situations teach me, it's who I want to play with and who I don't want to play with. Better for them and better for me, right? No judgment. It's not like I'm, you know, elevating myself beyond. It's just like, that's where that saying comes in, reason, season, lifetime, you know? And so I think we get to choose who we play with. And this is one of those things, and this is that time, and this is that era. Yeah, so that's
say this, and there's so many different subjects out of that that could branch out. So just to let everyone know who are listening, we don't rehearse. We talk. So I mean, we have a pointer, and that's it, and it goes where it goes. But and that's probably what I love about us, is that we didn't have to explain that to each other. It just happens naturally, because we did so many presentations together. Yes, mostly business presentations, but we always added our twist to it, and quite often actually we arrive at the business presentation a minute before, and sometimes we didn't even talk about what we would say or who would say what, and it was just working, because I don't know, we accept each other like we are, and it's fabulous. But there's one thing I wanted to touch on, and actually two things. You know, you said, now I don't mind as much what people think and everything. I feel like I was so scared to get to my 30s. You know, when I was in my 20s, I was just like, oh my gosh, 30, that's it. Everything starts going downhill and blah, blah. And then I was at 30 and I'm like, okay, it's not too bad. I'm still in shape. I can still do my stuff. And then 40 was approaching, and I was just like, oh my goodness, that's it. That's really where, like, you know, I need to start shopping for my retirement house. Well, it's scary when you jump a decade.
absolutely.
Going towards 50, and I'm actually not scared at all, because there's one thing that I've gained through all of that, and also, you know, all the connections that I made through the new people that I've met, like you, and that I didn't have in my 20s. But it's that growing older, you stop, or I don't have the fear anymore of like, what will people think of me? And, you know, now they can think whatever they want. And if they don't like me, well, it's not my issue, it's theirs. But what I like about our show, and that kind of ties it in a bit, is that we were talking about, like, yeah, it would be amazing to do a podcast, but Deb and I we love comedy, we love music, we love super deep, serious subjects. You know, we can talk about addictions, about Survivor, about parenting, as much as we can talk about, you know, this comedian, did you see how crazy and funny he is? And we like to inject humor in everything, even when we talk about something super serious. It's almost like it's both of us, it's in our natural personalities to go into something in there. And I think, you know, I used to say when I was, and I'm not sure if it's okay to say that on air, but I will say it anyway. I was saying that I had verbal diarrhea. I could not filter what I was saying. I was thinking something, I was saying it. And for the longest time, you know, I hated that. And I was just like, so concerned about it, and like, oh my gosh, so-and-so will think that, so-and-so will think that, why did I say that, why did I say that? But getting older, I realized, you know what, it's me. And a lot of people like this personality that I don't filter. Some don't, but I mean, you know, it's there's someone for everyone. About our show is that I feel it's a bit that we didn't give it, you know, the only identity that we gave to our show, and that's probably one of the huge reason why I said yes, actually, is true that we wanted something that was really revolving around the truth, authenticity, real. So it's basically, we can talk about whatever subjects with, and I know that both of us, and through our life, have been able to sit with people from any class, any situation, any occupation, and be able to relate to them, because we both have a very full and colorful life. So, but for me, that's like, now I realize it's experience, but it's also like so enriching, you know, not everyone has the opportunity to be able to touch just so many different things in life. So I'm not sure where I'm going with all of that, but I was just
why don't I just do what interviewers are supposed to do and just wrap you up? So Caroline, wrap encapsulate that and say that the cool thing about doing this show is that not only does it allow us to have voice, but we allow other people to have voice, because we're not the only ones that have played small. And it's not just the external, it's not the external, because we have a choice whether we pick that up or not. Yes, there's society. Yes, people say this. Yes, women. Yes, men. Yes, this. Yes, that. Like, you know, we all have our society pictures of what, and we compare ourselves and all that kind of stuff up there, but we have choice. I think that's what happens as you become seasoned. I think that's what happens as you, you know, move through your seasons, as you were talking about. You start to get a better sense of yourself. You get more love for yourself. You get cool with yourself. And then that allows other people to tell the truth. Like, you know, we ask people that come onto the show, like, look, here's the deal. You're saying you're coming into a show called True That. So you better be prepared to peel at least one level, you know, and share with people, like, so how did you get to 7 figures? Well, this is how. I cried that day, you know, or I sucked it up that day, or my, you know, marriage got tested, or I felt guilty as a parent, but I did it anyway, or, and how did I deal with that? What did I do? What's my choices? What were the repercussions? What would I do again in a heartbeat, the exact same way I did it? And what would I never do again the exact way I did it, right? And it gives people voice, gives them a platform. And I think it also opens up one of the, so it was interesting that True That was your trigger. For me, the word lifepreneur was my trigger, because I believe that, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I think there's a lot of focus on entrepreneurs. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, because I think it takes a certain kind of bravery and creativity to be able to pull that off. But I also think there's a lot of people out there that have had to get creative, that have had to pull a lot of things off, that are really that lifepreneur, right? That have braved up and faced things and forged things forward and made change. And honestly, the cool thing that I love about that word is that it doesn't define gender, it doesn't define occupation, and it doesn't define age. There's some wicked 19-year-olds that are doing some crazy stuff right now that, you know, maybe a few generations ago would have been like, no. So I think it gives a really great platform. So for me, the word that kind of ventured it up was lifepreneur. So it's very interesting, right?
It's funny you say that because, well, for those of you who don't know, I have 3 kids. So almost 22, almost 20, and 12. So yes, I'm going through my last teenager. She's a teenager right now. But you and I were talking about lifepreneur, and I was, you know, you say some people do some wicked things, but I'm looking at her, and now I know, because I've went through it. I had 2 went through it. You know, all the battles that they go through teenagehood, and we know that it's going to pass, and we know that you're going to become an adult and it's going to get better. But that's that in itself, you know, it's an accomplishment that we do. We survive our childhood, and then we survive our teenage years. And, you know, I really think that anyone could talk about lifepreneurship at any age, because just dealing with life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I mean, it was great. This is great. I think it gives me even a better sense. I'm so glad that our listeners are being able to hear what it was about us, and if there's anything that they can take about this or take from this in terms of being able to want to expand themselves or say yes to something. I mean, you know, people may or may not have heard that saying. I mean, I heard it. Some Jeff Olson, you know, Jeff Olson, someone that we, you know, both follow and love. Also Richard Branson, where you just say yes. You know, you just say yes. I mean, what was it that made me decide to ask you that day? I don't know. I didn't wake up that day and go, oh, in my agenda or my day timer, I'm going to have in here, ask Caroline to do podcast. It was a momentary decision.
And I,
you know,
with the saying, for me, that was a saying of Steve Jobs. Like, you have no idea, just say yes and figure it out after. And honestly, I basically took all my decisions like that. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have ever gotten married or have kids, or, you know, when you start, if the personality that I have, if I would have started thinking everything through, I'm a Libra, would still be thinking, you know, like, should I?
and I'd have been like, oh, doop. So
say yes, just say yes. It's and it's funny because when you say yes, it's not funny, but it's interesting because when you say yes, and we were talking about that this morning, it seems like the universe starts throwing you stuff like, like the podcast. I mean, you asked, I said yes, and then a bunch of different information started coming to me. Well, aside from everything that you were sending me, a bunch of other stuff were starting to come to me, and I was just like, wow. So it opens your horizons as well to say yes.
It does. It does. So anyways, we're going to be doing some great things. I'm super happy that we're going on this road together. It's been a fantastic journey up till now, and I have no doubt it's going to continue and expand. I think this platform is going to be really monumental, not just from, us having fun and kind of throwing the jokes around, but we really truly believe in the people that we bring on to interview are impactors, right? And game changers and beacons and information specialists and all of what people need, right? So I'm just super excited to be kind of on the brink of where being authentic and being transparent has now become cool. Some of the really game changers, some of the people that really brought authenticity, vulnerability as a commodity. Like as a commodity, when I think about that, and you may or may not agree, one of them that pops into my head is Brene Brown, where, she got on stage and started talking about authenticity and being transparent and being vulnerable. Now, who knew talking about vulnerability was going to turn into millions of people to watch a TED Talk? But this is where we are, people. This is where we are, where it's okay to be vulnerable. And actually, I'm not going to say the word monetize that, but I'm saying that it is no longer a deterrent. It's actually an asset in the marketplace, in the workplace, in your relationship place, right? People allowing to be vulnerable, like taking that door down, whatever, right? Children should be seen, not heard. Well, guess what? They're heard. If you had any, you know that they're heard, or men have to be strong, not vulnerable. No, men can have feelings, or, women are, in this box, and men are in this box, and kids are in this box. And if you are an employee, you're in this box. And if you're an employer, you're in this box. And those doors are starting to open and the words of authenticity and transparency and vulnerability and sharing and a different type of leadership and different styles of leadership and equality and all of those things are really coming to the forefront, And I believe that that's really, people are so attracted to true that, because I think being truthful at the end of the day is really all we kind of got. Like I said when my daughter turned 16, we did a big sweet 16 birthday party. And the two things I said to her, one was about, women in voting. And it was, a personal thing that I passed down. That was maybe my own traditional way of thinking. But the other one that I said to her in a video in front of a room full of people at dinner was like, here's what we got. We come in, now this is my belief, may not be yours, may not be people listening, but we come in with our word. We come in with our word. And I don't believe that you need to sign a contract with your signature to uphold your word. We come in with our word and we leave with our word, and just do the best that you can. Just do the best that you can to uphold your word. There may be times where you got to say, I'm sorry. There may be times where you're like, that didn't quite work out, or I need to reevaluate or rethink this. But your word should be as solid as if signing it to a piece of paper. Like, we don't necessarily do the documents. Now, that was me. That's what I think that the truth really represents, right? Like just being as authentic as you can, as truthful as you can in the moment that you can, doesn't mean that it can't change. Doesn't mean that you made the right decision every single time. And it doesn't mean things can't be reevaluated, but to the best of your ability, being as authentic as you can.
I don't know if I told you, actually, it just popped to my mind now, but in January, I always do that. And I think you do too, choose a word.
Mm-hmm.
And in January, I wrote truth.
Wow.
This year. And not only stop lying to people. I don't lie much. No, I actually don't lie, but truth in the sense of being true to myself, being true when I write on social media. If I don't want people to judge, I'm just not going to go there. But if I do go there and I write something, it will be my real belief. It's not going to be embellished or whatever. True in everything, true in the relationships that I choose to keep and choose to not keep, but not do anything with, visit the family just because it's on the calendar and you have to. for
Right.
like 2020 was a moment of truth. And look at this, true that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did not choose a title. Well, we kind of did together, but she brought it on. But now I just remember that was my word for 2020.
That's incredible. Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's really great. Well, I'm really looking forward to, you know, where this takes us and where it goes from here. I know that we've got some ideas. And like Caroline says, the universe kind of throws things at you when you start to open doors, and that's what happens. And now we're learning the lesson of strategy and time management. But I am just so excited. I'm so excited to build a community of people that are getting value from what we're doing.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't even have to be just people that are receiving value from what we're doing, and appreciating people coming in and kind of opening themselves up a little bit. And I think that when we open ourselves up, it allows other people to be okay with not being okay. Being okay with not being okay. Right. So, yeah.
And you know what? I want to say that if ever you guys want to throw us ideas, comments, your own story, your testimonials, whatever, we will read everything. So we created a very easy email address. It's Deb and Caroline at gmail.com. So DEB and is AND, Caroline, CAROLINE at gmail.com. So contact us if you want to share anything, and we will to read you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be the interviewer here and wrap you up, Deb.
All right. What a pleasure.
For joining us today. We may re-invite you to this show. You were a good guest. No, but it was nice seeing you and nice chatting with you as always. And there's many more amazing subjects to come. So,
all right. Good. Signing off.
Signing off.
That, sister.
Yeah, true that, sister. Okay, bye.
Bye.